Welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we uncover the stories, strategy, and lesson from hands-on builders, creators, and entrepreneurs who shape the industries and inspire the next generation. But today, I'm joined with Paul Shrater, an entrepreneur with one of the most diverse and fascinating portfolio you will ever see. Paul is the owner or co-owner of over a dozen companies and brands, spanning from e-commerce, food service distribution, third-party logistic, contract packaging in food and beauty supplements, pat, homeopathic promotional products, and even TikTok talents and brand management. A graduate from the prestigious Wharton School. Paul has appeared in national media, has spoken over major topic industry conference, and built a unique ecosystem of business, totally 1,000 square feet of operation space. From shipping a fruitcake into space to scaling company in creators economy. It's truly the blueprints of all conventional thinkers and executors. Paul, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Happy to be here and happy to chat with your audience and see how I can give any helpful advice.
Yeah, thank you. So, Paul, what was it like growing up?
Grew up in a suburb here in Southern California in the United States, and typical suburban life. And when I was graduating high school and was going to college, I either wanted to get into theoretical physics or get into business, and decided to do business, and went to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania as an undergraduate, and then went into film and television as a producer and writer, and was over on the studio lot at Sony Pictures, and ended up selling a script for $1 million, and was busy as an entrepreneur. I love businesses that capture changes in society, and all of those different businesses that you alluded to are based on things that are shifts in society and business. And when people were putting their credit cards online for the first time around 2004, we had this, my family and I had this idea to do an e-commerce company, and that's how it started. And I moved away from the entertainment industry into being an entrepreneur in e-commerce 21 years in 2004.
Wow, that was really alien, really fascinating. So, what was this earlier inspiration that actually spurred you into e-commerce and those various digital blueprints across various places? Do you actually have a mentor or more like a figure that actually inspired you to dive into this particular part when you were growing up? Or you just find yourself that you just started diving into it? How did it get started?
Well, again, I like, business concepts that are capturing shifts and seeing that, there was going to be a lot of people wanting to buy things on this new thing called the internet, and yet there weren't a lot of people ready to sell things. I said, ooh, there's an opportunity to focus on a category and sell things. And my family went on a trip, and they rented a cabin in New Hampshire in the United States, and everybody had their favorite food product, like their favorite brand of salad dressing or barbecue sauce or cereal in regular size. And at the end of a week vacation, everybody's flying home, and they're like, we're not going to put this half filled jar in our suitcase, but it's sad that we have to throw it away. So wouldn't it be great if we could buy our favorite brands in miniature size? And so that was the idea of launching, the e-commerce business with everything miniature. So travel-sized toiletries, single-serving food items, little packets, of ketchup and mustard, which we actually ship into orbit to the astronauts in the space station. We've been doing that for about 20 years, so supplying a bunch of food products to them. So that's how it started, was basically a need, an opportunity, at the same time seeing there was a place for it within this new thing called e-commerce.
Wow. Amazing. So, did your time at Wilson influence your entrepreneurship direction, or entrepreneurship put you into naturally? How did you actually get started? Did you started in university?
There's actually two questions you're asking. One is, is an entrepreneur born or are they made? This is one of the underlying questions you're asking. So I actually think you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to enjoy the journey and not the end goal. And a lot of people who are not true entrepreneurs look at the end goal, the money or flipping their business, or that's really not entrepreneurship. That may be business and looking at it from metrics on it. But unless you enjoy the journey along the way, it's a different way. It's not really entrepreneurship. It's something different. To answer your question about the Wharton School and how did that influence me, I actually designed my entrepreneurial degree towards the entertainment industry because I knew that was a great place to be entrepreneurial. But I will say the most useful class that I took there that still to this day actually is valuable is contract law.
Wow.
Because as an entrepreneur, you look at a lot of
Yeah.
contracts and you have to understand what it is you're looking at and what are the elements that it has and what's it missing and so just getting a real understanding of the things that go into a contract has allowed me to save a lot of money with attorneys. You still have to work with them, but if you can do most of the work and then they just go through it, and like you can save a lot. They don't have to do it all, from scratch.
Wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And also, I discovered from about that you run several businesses, and I know entrepreneurship is quite very demanding. And many people say, okay, focus on one business. But yet, you run over more like a dozens. How did you actually choose the multiple company parts?
Each one developed from an opportunity and a need, and they all connect together. Like I'm not going and opening restaurants. So the e-commerce business, people assumed we were manufacturing all these products, which we weren't, and saw there was a need for a manufacturing facility, contract packaging, to help a lot of these brands. Because of the internet, it was easier and cheaper to be an entrepreneur than it was before the internet. And most of the factories had minimums that were like 1 million pieces. And a lot of these young new entrepreneurs can't afford 1 million pieces, and these factories weren't really entrepreneurial. They didn't need to be. They have their big customers and their big equipment, so launched a company to really be a scaling facility. And we're unique in the United States in that we do food, beauty, supplements, personal care, all kinds of different products, liquids, powders, particulates, packets, stick packs, bottles, jars, cans, bags. And this is the machinery and the lab coat and the hairnet and the whole thing. So that, and then we were making product for people, the minis, and then they said make me the big sizes, and then they said you do your own fulfillment with your own e-commerce business, both direct to consumer and wholesale, just down the street. Can you do the fulfillment for me too, since you're making my product right there? And I said, sure, why not? And I realized there was another opportunity here because that fulfillment industry, 3PL or third-party logistics, was used to pallets coming in and pallets going out to retailers. And because they didn't have pick and pack before the internet, we had maybe the Sears catalog or something like that, but it was not as big as what the internet, made it become. And so those businesses were not used to having to sit and pick and pack orders all day or have customer service talking to the public on behalf of their clients or even talking to their clients every day about different needs that were changing. It was, before that it was more simplistic. You have a few retailers, pallets come in, you store them, pallets go out. Now it was a whole different thing. And so we were finding success in that we had done it for ourselves and really built the systems, and now we could use those systems for others. And so we started getting not just customers from the things we were manufacturing for them, but just customers who just needed the fulfillment side of the business. And so a lot of high profile celebrities and startup businesses, and then that led into just other businesses and other opportunities that connected to that. And now we're sort of leveraging all of those businesses into launching brands alongside high-profile celebrities that want to be entrepreneurs. And we can bring them product innovation because we work with food scientists and chemists and material scientists and inventors. So I can bring them product innovation in the category they're passionate about and have all of these infrastructure companies from e-commerce, manufacturing, fulfillment. We have food service distribution. We have another company that does a TikTok marketing agency. So we can help market it, sell it, so we have all the pieces together to support the infrastructure in-house to co-own the brand and help manage the operational side of the brand for them.
Wow, that was really amazing, and it's robust too. It's just the fact that you were curious to actually run this business, and it speaks volume to that. A whole lot of business will run from one to another, being that you have more like a robust system that feeds various particular agency, that feed various particular need. And the fact that when you add another, they are definitely going to feed everything from more like how it gets started in the fulfillment, in the distributions and everything. And this is really, really very, very robust. So your business actually covered food supplements, beauty distribution, and more. How did you maintain quality across the industries?
That's a good question. The In our contract packaging facility, it's governed by regulatory agencies. So you have the FDA, you have the California Health Department. We also are certified organic, so we get inspected by the state for organic, but also an independent third-party agency on organic. We're kosher certified, so we get inspected by the kosher inspector every year, usually more than once. So the amount of sort of third-party eyes you have on something help, but also you develop what they call a GMP, or good manufacturing practices manual, that guides those processes for your company. And there's not necessarily a complete standard out there, but there are certain things that you have in it that dictate all of your procedures and checks that you do. So there's a lot of paperwork involved when you do a manufacturing process that makes sure, that you the first, units coming off the line, that their weights are matching what the machinery is, that your machinery is calibrated, to that. And you have the cleaning schedules that get signed off on, and so there's a lot of logs, procedures, and then logs that you followed the procedures that get signed off on, and then a second set of eyes that inspects that and signs off on it. So then we send things out to a third-party microbiological lab, both the ingredients when they come in, if it's food, and the finished product before it gets released. We have to have clearance from a third-party microbiological lab. So there's a lot of processes that go into food and supplements and things like that when you're packaging them. For fulfillment, we use what we call a picker-packer system. So the person who packs an order is not the same person. The person who picks the order off the shelf is not the same person who packs it in the box. So they'll bring it over, they'll have the packing slip and the items, and then somebody else reviews it as they put it in the box. So that way, it's not the same person who's just not paying attention. So having two sets of eyes. And some places do that with computers, and you scan, something, and it'll beep if it's not the item that matches. But we've found with a lot of the clients that we have that are fast moving and need nimbleness, and changes happen constantly, having what they call a micro warehousing system, where we have certain teams that have certain sets of clients, so they get to know their set of clients and everything about them, what their products look like. So if something's different and changed, they can spot that. Scanning gun won't spot that. And that's what happens with a lot of sort of robotic, facilities. Like, you can do things at scale and all that, but you may not catch something that the human eye sees, because the humans who are picking it aren't even paying attention to what client it's for. It just beeps, And so this is a different method. Well, not different. It's one of the methodologies that's used in that industry that we find really works for, our customer base, which is the kind of smaller companies and celebrities and, people who have a lot of changes happening on a regular basis with the needs for their brand.
Wow. The system is still robust, and just hearing the various system that is entailed to maintain quality, it just shows that, it's really a full system running there. And that's really, really amazing. So what are the most overlooked skills entrepreneurs need when scaling physical products?
Well, I'll say that the skills that entrepreneurs need, and I can also answer what skills an entrepreneur looks for in those around them. The biggest skill an entrepreneur needs is to understand where they are not as good, because he can't do everything. And so where are they the best, and where should they bring in, people to help them in the areas that they're not as good at, especially in the very beginning when you don't have, a big team of people. But as you're building something, are you great with numbers and spreadsheets and accounting, but horrible at marketing and selling? Are you good at, business development and sales, but horrible at accounting? So understanding what areas you're good at and excited by and have passion for, and what areas you don't and that you want to, fill. And then when you look for those people, really, especially in an entrepreneurial environment, there's really two kinds of people. There's people who are used to being told what to do, and there's people who understand what needs to be done and know how to step up, know when to ask questions while they're stepping up to do something. There's other people that will sit and wait until they're told exactly what to do. You can't afford that in an entrepreneurial small company, because you don't have time to have somebody else always be on top of somebody telling them what to do. You really need a lot of people who are like mini entrepreneurs in their specific area that can take charge and really own what it is they're doing. The bigger company you get, the more you can have people who focus on, one specific thing, move paper from one pile to another kind of thing, and it's a lot more. There's a lot less decisions you have to make the bigger you get in terms of each employee. Versus when you're smaller, you need employees who
Yeah.
have to compute a lot of different things.
This is really amazing, and I think it just speaks volumes to when I was listening to the Found That podcast the other time, and they just started out this high level of connection between them, being that every single person who work with them, they are an entrepreneurs, being that they make decisions on their own, they spearhead things, they are not with to be actually told, being that they are working with their strength. So at the end of it, they run with the entrepreneur mindset, being that they already know the goals and the aspiration of the company. So they run it violently towards achieving a common purpose compared to when they become big and there are so many systems and someone needs to be told what and what to do. And this is really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and what you keep referencing systems, and really that is the thing when you're building a business is you have to put in systems. If everything is constantly changing and you have to be the one to put out fires and fix things, you can't grow. And so you need to put systems in place, and I'll even call it like backup systems. So if one person is out sick or on vacation or something, what happens? Does somebody above them have to go and say, okay, this person, invariably, you're always going to have people out sick or on vacation, or, or someone's needed for something and someone else can, so you have to cross train. And focusing early on cross training is important in being able to grow your business.
What is the toughest operation challenge you have overcome?
I would say that it's early on, it's understanding the importance of a good business culture or corporate culture amongst employees. And one person who doesn't have a good attitude about things can spoil it for everybody and make it so people don't want to go to work every day when they wake up. One person can do that in a large group of people and affect that. So understanding and spotting that is an important lesson that I learned, because there was times when we had that early on in the beginning, and you're not used to firing somebody, or in some cases, actually, I realize it's not necessarily that person's fault. It's just that they don't have the skills to do the job that they're in. And when you recognize where their strengths are and that this just happens to be a weakness, and you put them in a different role that plays to their strength, they can shine. So I've done a lot of that and learned that lesson early on, that sometimes it's not that the person's a bad employee, it's just they're in the wrong role that's not right for the way they think. And you have to put them in a role that matches more the way their brain works. And then they can really shine, and you don't have to fire them, and they can be great. And there are some people, though, where it's not about matching their skill, it's about the way their attitude, towards things. And so somebody with a bad attitude, you can't put them in a different role and have their attitude change. They're just bringing down the attitude of the whole company, and that's something they're going to have to figure out in therapy or something.
Yeah.
They're going to eventually be a good employee, wherever they end up.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I think it just speaks volumes to work ethic cannot be taught, but you could actually more like get to find their strengths and weaknesses and be able to place them right. When it comes to work ethic, sometimes it's very difficult, being that some persons have bad attitude, and what they need may be therapy, not changing their role. Okay. So you work directly with TikTok corporates and creator. What is the biggest opportunity in life setting right now?
The biggest opportunity for a brand or a business is actually TikTok, in my opinion, right now. Partly because the algorithm does the work for you at such a scale that you can't do from targeted advertising like you used to just a few years ago. And it's down to the content that you create. If you can create content that connects emotionally to consumers, the algorithm will try that content out on a group of consumers it thinks will be good for it, and it'll keep trying it. Traction with those consumers, it automatically becomes viral. You don't have to pay to do that. It's free to get that virality. It just means you have to be good enough to create content that people are interested in and that is engaging. And you have to think about that like as a consumer. As a consumer, Do you want to watch content about people talking about how great their brand is? No, you don't. You want to be
Yeah.
entertained. You want to laugh. You want to cry. You want to, you want to be emotionally moved by everything that you're watching on social media. And so connecting emotionally and understanding how to do that, this is where the storytelling
Yeah.
background of my entertainment industry comes into how to look at doing content on TikTok. And the interesting thing is the people who've become well-known creators with millions of followers have figured out most of the time it's just an innate feeling that they have on how to do it. They may not even be able to talk about how they think about, but they understand how to create things that people are interested in. And so as a brand, if you don't have those skills yourself, because you're not a natural born storyteller, or you don't have a marketing firm that knows how to do that, or an agency that knows how to do that, you can work with other people and other creators who have the skills to do that. Or you work with an agency who brings in those people who have the skills and does affiliate marketing, or maybe a larger partner that can come in.
Yeah.
That came over from China. They're like, we know it worked over here and how it happened over 5-6 years. We're only a few years into it here in the US. So that's why TikTok's like, we know the future of e-commerce. We've seen it in China. Now culturally things are a little bit different when you go from one country to another, but I think they're on the right track in that they understand that is a place like people like to watch things live. They like to get, deals. QVC that we've had since the mid 1980s is an example of how we've known about live selling and done. We had a whole channel and Home Shopping Network, and so this is that, but in a more of a social media setting and with personalities and people that are engaging. The QVC had a very formulaic thing that they learned over time. Similarly, China has a methodology that they learned over time for their audience, which is very much about aggressive selling, price, attributes. The United States culture in business is a little less focused for the time being on those price and attributes. We're more interested in the brand and the brand messaging and our emotional connection to the brand. And that comes a little bit more through storytelling. So I've been working with people at TikTok and even other agencies in town that work together on how to do more storytelling and emotionally connect more, as opposed to just yelling at the camera about price and attributes. And you've probably seen it on TikTok or other live selling things. And if you can connect better to that customer, they're going to feel more connected to you. They're going to feel more connected to the product. They're going to want to make a purchase decision, not just based on price and attributes, which are important, but they're going to, that last biggest piece to get them from maybe I'll buy it to actually buying it is, for now in the United States, is that emotional connection. We make it to the point that China got to where it's going to be shop, 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 price, deal, deal, deal. It'll be a lot more focused like they are now, but we're not there yet. Because right now people go to TikTok to be entertained,
Yeah.
again, to laugh and cry or share with somebody. They're not going there for shopping for deals. And so we need to blend that a little bit more. And I think the people who understand that are doing really well, or can do really well, if you can figure that out and know how to do that.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Blending all the deals and everything. And yeah, still the feeling at the end, I still got the message of what you're trying to communicate. And I think that's very lovely. So in your opinion, Paul, can entrepreneurship be learned, or does it have to be innate?
Like I was mentioning before, I think most of it has to be innate. It has to be an inner drive that you have on the journey. And that I always tell people, I enjoy building things and solving problems. And so if your motivation at your core is that you find enjoyment in building and growing things and solving problems, then you are innately an entrepreneur, or could be one. If you haven't figured that out, and you're more about and cars and money and that's what drives you to be an entrepreneurship, you're not really an entrepreneur. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs who maybe like that, but fell into success despite themselves. so sometimes there are people who are very wealthy who've done very well. Doesn't mean they were great at what they were doing. They were the right person in the right time with the right thing. So not necessarily all famous entrepreneurs are good role models for how to be an entrepreneur. So to me, I don't look to other people. I look at what I'm doing and find that enjoyment in that journey, as opposed to external validation.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So, Paul, what moment made you feel okay? I have actually made it.
Well, I think that part of the job of being an entrepreneur is feeling like you've never made it. And by the way, that's when people are like, how come, Bill Gates and other people keep going? And it's because they feel like they haven't done all that they know they can do. They haven't solved all the problems. They haven't grown it to where they know it could be. So you never feel truly done or made it or there or arrived. But to give you at least a usable answer, I think the moment I didn't have to be the one to fill in for somebody's job when they weren't there, that the systems, like we were talking about, could fill that hole without me always needing to be the one to do it. Because having started the business from scratch, in the beginning, I had done every job. Purchasing, sales, packing boxes and customer service. And so when somebody was out, I'm the one who sits at that desk and does not only my job, but their job while they're out. Once you get the business to the point where other people can fill in all of the roles and you literally could take a day off and be okay, that's when there's at least a feeling of like, aha, I've got a system in place that keeps going and I don't have to be the driving force that if I'm not there, it falls apart. That is the first time you feel like you've actually built something.
Wow, amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Paul. So, who are the entrepreneurs or thinker you believe give the best advice today?
I would say Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you listen to him at all. A lot of his advice mirrors a lot of the same thoughts I've had, and his advice is very practical and very actionable advice about tactically how to do things and look at things. So I would say he's probably one of the only people that I fall in line with a lot on those kind of things in terms of like the big folks. But I generally don't read a lot of other entrepreneur stuff, or I may see things in my feed. There are a lot of them who say some of the same things that are more just generic, business concepts or motivation or whatever. And that's fine if it gives you that energy to do it, and especially if it's things that you haven't programmed into your brain about how to see. Like if you have aspects where you're like, ooh, I don't understand this whole social media thing and how it works and psychologically, well, there are people who you can go and watch content and kind of pick it up and learn some tips, or if it's a particular field like financial services or real estate or whatever, there are certain people that can give you guidance of things they're seeing in industry that have worked for them that you can get value out of if it's not something that you already instinctively know from sort of living and breathing it yourself. And so I think a lot of it may be more industry specific for certain people, but in general, there's not many people where I've grabbed something and said, yes, this is...
Amazing. Thank you, Paul. So, lastly, Paul, what is next? What are you excited to build or explore in the coming years?
Really, I'd mentioned earlier, taking all that infrastructure and putting that to work with a lot of these high-profile celebrities and creators who want to be entrepreneurs now and need that operational business partner. And they were coming to meet me to hire me for these different services that we do. And they would say, oh, can you be my business partner? And I was like, nah, I don't have time for that. And I did that for years. And I finally was like, wait a minute, there's a phenomenon happening here. Let me set up a company that can actually have people who can be project managers and brand managers and organize and leverage all this infrastructure to be that operational business partner for them and have the capital to invest in the incubation and launch of their consumer products businesses. So that is the thing I'm most excited about doing. In fact, we're regularly having calls. I have business partners now for that venture, and we're working with the big talent agencies and management companies and bringing a lot of the product innovation in. And so we're in literally the beginning ton of activity around that and really getting that going.
This is really amazing. I think it just speaks volumes to the fact that a business can actually start with a particular product, but along the way, owing to the need you get to see often, it can be branched, it can be more like expanded, it can be more like being that your current need from your customer, from your markets can actually more like prompt a whole lot of opportunity that you don't even know exists before. I think the key thing here is just get started with the one you have, and over time you get to figure it out and expand it. Yeah, this is really amazing.
Yeah, everybody has an idea. Very few people
Yeah.
actually put in the work to execute it.
Yeah, so
And
true.
that's one of the biggest differences. People think, oh, it's so easy. Look at, I have this idea. Go figure out how to do it. It's not as easy as you think
Yeah.
to execute. But that's the first step, is to actually just start doing
Yeah,
it.
do it.
And you won't get it right in the beginning, and you find people that you can work with that have done it before and made all the mistakes, and then they can mentor you or teach you or guide you or partner with you, so then you don't have to make all those mistakes, because sometimes a mistake can be a business killer level
Yeah.
of a mistake. And it's like most businesses succeed because they navigated all of those mistakes without any one of those mistakes being big enough to take them out. It's a weird way to look at it, because you will make lots of
Lots of
those,
mistake.
but you have to know how to and position yourself so that none of those can be catastrophic. So you have to balance that growth and that energy that you put towards growth with a certain amount of conservatism of how you are growing your business, so that way you build those systems along the way and it just doesn't get out of control.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. So, Paul, for my audience who want to connect with you, who want to get to know you more, and who want to do business with you, where is the best platform where they could actually connect with you?
LinkedIn is a good place. Paul Shrater, Shrater. You can find me on LinkedIn, paulshrater.com, although I don't think it has contact information on there other than a link over to
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but that's where it kind of summarizes the bio. The service companies, you can find links to all of them at minimusbrands.biz. So minimus, like the Latin word for small, the opposite of Maximus. So minimusbrands.biz, B-I-Z. That kind of has links to all the different service companies that I mentioned.
Wow, amazing. So lastly, before we go, if you had to start over, let's say your very business and everything you get to do now, what will you do different compared to when you actually started out?
Not much. In that there's, a few little things here and there where, you might say, oh, like, we should have exited this lease on a building sooner than we did, or whatever. Like, there's a few small, decisions along the way. But to go back to the beginning, there's not much, I would say, that I would change. I mean, it's kind of grown in a way that's worked. But again, there's certain, little decisions that you'd go back and be like, if I'd only done it this way, we would have saved this chunk of money here, or we would have gotten into this piece of business over here. Or so there's small things that anybody always looks back on and says, I wish I would have done that a little different. There's nothing major that I would say, because if there was, I wouldn't be here talking about this business.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, thank you for taking us into the inside of your word. A word built on curiosity, creativity, fairness, execution, genuine entrepreneurship spirit. Your journey reminds us that business don't have to fit in a box, and neither do the people actually who build them. To everyone listening, you can explore Paul Company and projects at paulshrater.com. This has been the Aro Benaiah Show. Keep building, keep experimenting, and keep thinking beyond what's expected. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Paul.
Thank you, Aaron. Happy to hopefully help your audience.
Yeah.